Hello everypony, I am Openair, and it is so good to see you again. It feels like it's been ages. In the time we've been apart, a lot has happened. I played a lot of Stardew Valley. Well, at least the farm's looking nice. But we're not here to talk about my addiction. We're here to partake in fanfiction of only the highest quality and of only the most perfect subject, colorful horses. For those of you who do not know this series, this is FIM Fiction Roulette, where I read aloud a random chapter from a random fanfiction on fimfiction.net. Today we have an isekai and a human in the pony world, neither of which have I read before, so I'm quite excited to see what's in store for us. Normally I feel stories that revolve around a human going to Equestria focuses on the human adjusting to their new surroundings, and romance, while this one seems like it might be focused more on adventure. Whether that's true, we'll just have to see. One thing I just noticed is that one of the tags is anthro. I don't know how I feel about that. Actually, I do know how I feel about that, and it's the same reaction that I had when they announced Equestria Girls. Take that as you will. But without further ado, this is Guardian of Equestria, Rise of the Blue Sun by Blue Sun 52. Introduction. Follow the story of a human who has died in his world and has come to Equestria to defend it from coming darkness. Reborn with magic and strength, his must team up with the Bearers of Harmony to fight against monsters of all kinds of form and learn what it means to be a hero. This fanfic takes place in the middle of Season 3 of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. And now, Chapter 6. Live to Earn. Earn to Live. A new day had come upon Ponyville, and our hero has once again found himself in a tight spot after what he had realized what he had to do. He had to found a job. Upon discovering this, Hawk has been to Twilight's home to see if she can help in any way. Lucky for him, she did. She told Hawk that Applejack was more than willing to let him work for her at the farm at Sweet Apple Acres. He went to found Applejack, and sure enough, she was willing to hire. Applejack said, "I'm glad you decided to work at the farm with us. There's always so many things to do around here, and we have so little hands to do 'em." "It's no problem, Applejack. I'm glad to be working with you too," Hawk replied. Applejack then said, "Now I warn you, it's not going to be a picnic. It's real hard work, and there's going to be a lot of sweat. You think you can handle it?" Hawk then replied, "I'm a Texan, and most Texas people know the value of a good hard day's work." "That's good to hear. By the way, what's a Texan?" Applejack said. "We're best described mostly as cowboys," Hawk answered. "Well, shucks, Texas are my kind of place," she replied. "I thought you would like that," he commented. "Does that make you a cowboy too?" she asked. "Well, not really. I mostly live in the city side of Texas, but on Mom's side of the family, they're mostly country folk there. I visit them from time to time," he answered. Applejack then said, "Well, after I'm done with you, you're going to feel like a cowboy." "That I would like to see," he remarked. As Applejack and Hawk were walking, they saw Sweet Apple Acres in plain view. Hawk was surprised to be on such a large farm. He had seen large farms in his world, but he never was on them before. The land was covered in nothing but apples. He was able to see a large building that was both a home and a barn to the Apple family. As Marcus was looking around, he saw 3 other ponies that were there. They approached them, and Applejack said, "Well, it's time for you to meet my family. This is Granny Smith." Granny Smith was in a rocking chair sleeping and didn't hear what Applejack said. Granny?" Applejack said to Granny as she was trying to wake her up. "What? Who? Oh, hey there, Applejack. When'd you get back?" Granny asked. Applejack answered, "Just got back. I wanted you to meet Hawk. He's going to help us around here." "Oh, really? Let me look at him," Granny replied. Granny Smith was walking towards Hawk. She was looking at him with a serious look. She grabbed him and tries listening to his heart. And then she checked out his arms. After that, she pulled out a magnifying glass and used it to check out his ears. When she was done, she said, "Well, he checked out and ready to work. And quite handsome, too, if I do say so myself." "Oh, you're going to make me blush," Hawk said playfully. Everyone laughed for a minute, and Applejack got back introducing the family. Applejack said, "Next is Big McIntosh, my brother, and we also call him Big Mac." Big Mac said, "Yup." "Nice to meet you," Hawk replied. "Same to you," Big Mac replied. Applejack then continued, "And this little filly here is my sister Apple Bloom." "Hey there, little lady," Hawk said. "Well, tarnations, I remember you. You're the one who saved my friend Sweetie Belle from that rock monster, Applebloom said. Yes, I was. In fact, now that I think about it, I remember seeing you there as well, he replied. Wow! Oh, I also heard you got your key mark after that night. Is it true? She asked. Well, I prefer to call it a hero's mark, but yes, I did, he answered. Cool, can I see it, please? She asked excitedly. All right, sure. Hawk removed his coat, lifted his left shoulder, and showed Applebloom his mark. Applebloom looked at it and was amazed by the way it looked. You're so lucky. I wish I had my cutie mark, Applebloom said. I'm sure if you give it time, it'll come, Hawk said. I guess, she said with an impatient look. Applejack then said, All right there, little sis. Time to let Hawk get to work. Are you, Hawk? Ready as I'll ever be, he replied. All righty then. Let's get to work, she said. Everyone went their ways and got ready to work. Granny Smith was just sitting on her rocking chair knitting, while Big Mac was carrying a cart full of apples towards town, and Applebloom was helping getting the animals all the food they need. Applejack and Hawk headed for the apple trees and were sitting up buckets for the apples. Applejack turned to Hawk and said, All you have to do is buck this apples down from the tree and pick up any apple that don't go into the buckets. Any questions? Doesn't it make more sense to pick the apples from the trees than bucking them down? Hawk asked. Well, yeah, but that takes time, and it's a lot easier to buck them down, Applejack answered. Hawk then said, And another thing. The trees are very hard, and I doubt you actually buck them down. I'm beginning to think you're tricking me. Oh, really? She replied. As Hawk was watching, Applejack kicked the tree hard, and all the apples came falling down. Hawk felt completely dumb after what he had seen. Applejack was smiling, and Hawk was lost for words. Then he thought that if Applejack could do it, so can he. He got himself ready to kick a tree with apples on it. Then he kicked the tree with everything he got, and apples came coming down. He couldn't believe what had happened. He actually kicked a tree and brought the apples down. Applejack crept right behind him and said, I thought you said it was impossible. Maybe in my world, or we just never thought of it before, Hawk replied while he was still scratching his head with what happened. Wow, seemed like we ponies are doing something that you guys never thought of, Applejack commented. Yeah, it looks like it, he replied. By the way, you mentioned your family before. What are they like? She asked. Well, like I said, my mom's side of the family is country folk, and on my dad's side are mostly city folk, he replied. What about your parents? She asked. Hawk's smile went away quickly. The mention of his parents gave him a sad look. Applejack felt like she said something that she shouldn't have. Hawk noticed and got back his composure, looked back at Applejack and said, I never had the chance to know them. Applejack then said, I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay, you didn't know. From what I can tell, though, they were good people, he replied. Applejack felt sorry that she'd mentioned Hawk's parents, and felt like she gave them some bad memories. As the day was near its end, Applejack and Hawk collected all the buckets of apples they had and put them up for store when Big Mac takes them to town. Applebloom, Granny Smith, and Big Mac went in the house, while Applejack was giving Hawk his first payment. Applejack said, Here you go, partner, 21 bits, and that's for just doing work for 7 hours. Try coming here every 8 o'clock every weekday morning, and you'll get 150 bits a week. Not a bad deal, if I say so myself. Thanks, Applejack, I really appreciate it, Hawk replied. As Hawk was about to leave, Applejack stopped him and said, Wait. Yeah? Hawk said as he was turning back towards her. Applejack said, I wanted to say that I'm sorry about mentioning you about your parents. If I'd known... Applejack, it's okay. You didn't know. I'm the one who didn't mention it at all. If anyone has to say sorry, it was me. I'm sorry, Hawk said. Applejack then said, Well, that's very sweet of you, Hawk, but you don't have to apologize to me, and I know a way to make it up to you. Like what? He asked. I'll tell you my secret, she said. She walked up to Hawk and gave him a hug. She then said to him, I know that it's hard to lose your parents, but if you ever need to talk about it, you can come to me or any of the other girls to help you out. Hawk smiled at her and hugged her back and said, I really appreciate that. Back in the land of shadows, Lord Tyrek and Monarch prepare for their phase of the plan. Are the newly born disciples ready for battle? Tyrek asked. Yes, my master. They are ready. Give them orders, and they will obey, Monarch answered. Tyrek then said, Excellent. Bring them in. Monarch called for the former disciples. As one by one came in, each was deadlier than the next. Some were insect-like creatures, others were made from extinct parts from long-forgotten creatures, and the other were simply abominations. "Good, good," T-Rex said with amusement. T-Rex looked over at the magical orb and said, "Rest now, hero. Soon you, Equestria, and the whole world will fall." End of chapter 6. Quite the cliffhanger. I had a lot of fun voicing characters from the show. I hadn't the chance yet since the only characters I've had have been OCs. First, some things I liked. I like how Hawk has to find a job. I would have preferred it be something more unique, but I suppose working with Applejack allows for relationship growth between the two. Also, love how he's from the Lone Star State. A bit weird to see it in the story, but hey, being a Texan myself, gotta give some points for that. Honestly, not a lot happened in this chapter. Like, he got to the farm, was introduced to the Apple family, then kicked a tree, felt bad about no parents, and left. Also, T-Rex is getting ready, but that's it for the chapter. And it's in the middle of the story, too. Not like the beginning. A little weird, in my opinion. Also, how do they know what a cowboy is? And if they're anthro characters, why do they call themselves Pony? I couldn't believe when I read that he got a cutie mark. A human got a cutie mark. I assume when the author wrote shoulder, they meant shoulder. But why did he have to lift up his shoulder for Applewheel? She's short. Is the mark on the shoulder, or is it under it, or somewhere else? Another point, why did kicking the tree work? It shouldn't. Unless the quote-unquote ponies are stronger than a human, I refuse to believe that the trees are just that weak, or that we humans just never tried it. It's silly. By the way, to get 150 bits a week, off of 5 days a week, at 3 bits an hour, that would require 10-hour workdays. Applejack, that's brutal. For such long hours of such hard physical labor, someone needs to call Pony OSHA on you. This story was fun. I seem to say that about a lot of stories, but that's because they are. This one makes me ask a lot of questions about its world, and I'm left wanting to read more and discover its secrets. My question to you, dear viewers, is what do you think Hawk's cutie mark is? And do you think him being a Texan will appear later in the story? This was a chapter from Guardian of Equestria, Rise of the Blue Sun. Thank you, Blue Sun 52, for making such a wonderful story. The link will be in the description below. And thank you, listeners, for joining me on this exciting adventure. This is Openair, signing off. But don't worry, I'll be back soon with another FIM Fiction Roulette. I'm glad you decided to work... shit. What does Applejack sound like? Hold on, pause. Okay, we're back at it. Don't worry about me, Applejack. Don't worry about me, Applejack. I'm a Texan, and most Texas people know the value of a good hard day's work. Represent. Well, shucks. Texas is my... Well, shucks. Texas are my kind of place. She replied. Well, as Marcus... Doesn't it make more sense? Scenes? Doesn't it make more scenes to pick the... How would I pronounce scenes? How do you spell scene? Wow. Seem like we ponies are doing something that you guys never thought of, Applejack commented. We ponies. Why do they call them ponies if they're not horses? If they're anthro, they're not... What?